Brett Bursey is with us right now, director of the South Carolina Progressive Network. He burned the Confederate flag in 1969. He calls himself the oldest living Confederate prisoner of war. Brett Bursey is head of the South Carolina Progressive Coalition. Brett, welcome to Democracy Now! Your thoughts is just behind us, the body of Reverend Pinckney in the hearse now as it is taken slowly around the corner to College of Charleston.
Well, Amy, first let me say that I was a good friend of Clemente's, and when he came to the State House, he was 23, 24 years old. The Progressive Network does a lot of policy work for the Black Caucus, and Clemente was one of our sponsors for our Clean Elections Bill, and he was our spokesperson about the corrupting influence of money on politics for several years. I know the wife, the kids, and it's been such an impactful thing that I feel a responsibility to Clemente and the other people that are dead to take advantage of the opportunities that their sacrifices made to challenge the hypocrisy and the cynicism that fuels the bigotry that will still be there if they take the flag down. I mean, the governor has come out and said, take the flag down. She wouldn't have done that if this hadn't happened. I mean, she has a little understanding of how negative her policies impact people. Refusing to take the Medicaid expansion money. We've knocked on doors in South Carolina to talk to people about that didn't get any health care. And when we tell them that the governor said they didn't want it, we don't need it, they wanted to know why. And we told them, well, you'll have to call the governor. I can't explain why she would deny you health care. And so it's disingenuous and hypocritical what we're seeing, all these politicians, coming out and
voting
decrying racism.
Voting
where
rights.
have they been? Nikki was a big champion of photo ID bills that would have kept people from voting, and we found a dozen people and had a successful case, Section 5 case in the Department of Justice to block the bill. And they rewrote the bill in Washington, D.C. in court, and the court said you don't need a photo ID under the new photo ID law. So it was this tremendous kabuki theater that disenfranchises people. We have the lowest, least competitive elections in the nation. That 75% of our legislators are elected with no opposition, and that the idea that the people that are championing our democracy have shut the process down. We have profound problems, and I really do feel that some of this energy that's coming from this terrible tragedy is going to help direct some energy towards solving some of these long-range institutional problems that we have.
Brett Bursey, can you talk about what you did in 1969?
Well, it's kind of like what I just said. I mean, I was raised in the South. I graduated from Beaufort High School in 1966, a segregated high school, and came up to the University of South Carolina and got involved with the Southern Student Organizing Committee, which was a civil rights group that was formed when the white people left SNCC. And I was the state traveler for SOC in 68 and 69. The occasion of the flag burning at the university was on the anniversary of the Orangeburg Massacre, when in 1968, students at State University, which is the school's historic black college in Orangeburg, were gunned down by highway patrolmen. 3 of them were killed, 29 injured. And
You're talking Orangeburg.
Orangeburg.
The Orangeburg Massacre. Explain it very quickly. You're talking about February 8th,
1968.
Right before Dr. King was assassinated in Memphis.
It was in April. And so the event where the flag was burned was the first anniversary in 69 of the Orangeburg Massacre, and I put on an event called, we were going to call it Black Awareness Week. But we call it White Awareness
But Orangeburg's
Week.
So important. I remember when President Obama was first running for president and he went bowling and he gutter bowled and everyone was making fun of him. But what was so significant is he's an African-American man bowling, because Orangeburg was about a bowling alley, is that right?
It was about a bowling alley.
About integrating a bowling alley. And the police, without warning, opened fire on the students who were fighting for that integration of the alley.
Yes, and no one was ever punished for that killing. Cleve Sellers, one of the organizers, he was working with SNCC, ended up spending, I think, a year in jail. But the flag was burned in part because the university was using the flag, the Confederate flag, and playing Dixie at sporting events, a sea of Confederate flags. And we marched up to the president's house and demanded they quit doing that, and he said, okay. And we felt all empowered. We marched up to the legislature, which is across the street from the university. And that was the first time I realized that all 170 legislators were white. And there hadn't been a black legislator since the end of Reconstruction in the 1890s. We went back to the campus. Now, the flag was on the dome at the time. The flag went up April 12th, 1961, on the 100th anniversary of the start of the Civil War, which, of course, was brought to you by people here in Charleston, South Carolina. And we burned the flag. And I was arrested 5 days later for defacing or defiling or casting contempt by word or deed upon flags of the Confederacy.
So you burned the flag where?
On the university campus, in front of the president.
You were arrested?
Yeah. Yeah, I was arrested and...
Did you go to jail?
Went to jail, paid my bond, got out, and I'm still waiting trial.
So you call yourself?
Well, it's, yeah, it's partially humorous term that I feel I've earned in being the oldest living Confederate prisoner of war. It was one of the worst things, clearly, I ever did in the eyes of the authorities in South Carolina. I'd been identified as someone that did that and beaten up in police custody because of that.
I want to thank you, Brett Bursey, for joining us. The hearse has just moved on. Brett Bursey, director of the South Carolina Progressive Network, burned the Confederate flag back in 1969. This is Democracy Now! We'll be back here in front of the Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina, in a minute.